So I am an Austin realtor. I have kind of taken a little bit of a different path with real estate. While I do focus on residential real estate, I really tried to not put myself in a box of just being a transactional agent. Real estate is super competitive. I do think that you have to find ways to differentiate yourself. I do think that you have to have a place where you stand out. And I do think that you have to be very intentional about the client that you serve. So I've built my whole business based on reverse engineering the person that I want to serve, the person that wants to work with me, the person that I want to work with, and offered what I do in accordance to that. So in terms of East and West Austin, some of the things that I think of as like the main differentiators, the difference in the vibe, the culture, things like that, is the first thing that comes to mind is the East Side is just way more relaxed. The East Side is very much like a come as you are. You can walk down the street, you see every type of person from every type of life. You do have, like your finance bros, but you also have your artists and you have longtime residents who have been on the East Side forever. And it's a very accepting, very vibrant side of the city. The West Side is a little more buttoned up, right? It is a little bit more polished. It is a little bit more structured. It is the side of town that if you want to wear like a 3-piece suit, you probably want to be on the West Side. You probably might get looked at a little weird if you're on the East Side in the 3-piece suit. There are really amazing restaurants on the East and the West Side. One of the things that I've seen as one of the biggest differences lately is that in prior years, the West Side was where the nicer restaurants were, right? If you wanted to get really great, really fresh oysters, you'd probably have to go to West Austin. Within the past few years, there's been so many incredible restaurants that have emerged on the East Side. What I'm seeing more and more is that most of the good new restaurants are deciding to position themselves on the East Side, which is a really interesting shift to see. So you can get great food either place, but you're more likely to find a dive bar. In terms of art galleries, you're gonna find those East and West Side. The East are gonna feel a little more DIY, and the West are gonna feel a little more upper echelon. So that's one of the biggest differences in just the lifestyle of the two areas. The East Side has been generationally impoverished. And so you see that in the real estate because you'll see an older home. They weren't built as big. They also, there's more of a likelihood that the person that had that home did not have the means to keep up with the house. So we're talking the plumbing, the roof, the HVAC, all of these things. So you see a lot more teardowns on the East Side. And what I consider to be a true teardown is it going to cost me more to tear down this house and rebuild it than it is to remodel this home? The West Side, because you have these, it's generationally wealthy. You have, it's the side of town, like we talk about like Clarksville, for example. If I have a buyer and they come to me and they say, Adrienne, I want a Victorian home that it's charming, it's full of charm. Clarksville is going to be one of the best options for that. Another area is going to be Hyde Park. There's only specific areas in town where those homes were ever even built. Those homes will generally still require some work. Same with Travis Heights. Now that comes at a premium, right? You might have to put in work into a home and you're still going to be paying $1 million for it. Plus, these homes, you see a little more intention in the style. You see more of a combination of materials. You see more wood worked in. You see more natural elements worked in. You might see like more of like a Tudor style. This home is going to be a lot more expensive than it is going to be on the East Side. And in many cases, it's not a spec build, so it wasn't built just to sell. Those do exist. But in many cases, it is a buyer who is hiring someone to design a home, the exact home that they want, because they want to be in that area and they want to choose what type of home they live in. So when we're talking about bang for your buck, when we're talking about East Austin versus South Austin, this does get very specific to neighborhoods. If we are talking about your quote unquote hot neighborhoods in East Austin and in South Austin, we're kind of basing this on proximity to downtown, proximity to green space, walkability, bars and restaurants, activities. This is what's going to make an east or a south zip code more desirable. So your two heavy hitters there really are going to be 78704 and 78702. If we're looking at 78702, which is going to be the east side versus 78704, which is going to be south side, all day, you're going to get better bang for your buck in 78702. The east side has appreciated very rapidly, and it's continuing to do that. However, if you want to be as close to downtown as possible, you have a lifestyle that is young and vibrant, or you just want to be close to the best bars and restaurants in the city, maybe you work downtown and you don't want to spend as much, 78702 is going to be great for you. The Holly neighborhood, the Govalia neighborhood, these are going to be really great spots for you. And it kind of doesn't matter if you're doing new construction or resale. If we are talking about 78704, for example, some of the main neighborhoods there are going to be Zilker, Barton Hills, Travis Heights, Bolden. These neighborhoods have a very hefty premium. If we're talking about a new construction home that is a single family home, not an AB, not a condo, in one of these very desirable neighborhoods, you're probably not going to be under 2 million. And that's going to also increase based on the size of that home. Now, there are pockets, there are AB units, there are smaller condo regimes. There is a way to get around that. There is a way to bring that number down. But it's much easier to get that turnaround, get that same bang for the buck in O2, even though it is getting very expensive. So in terms of the vibes, if we're talking about specifically the east side neighborhood, let's say the zip code is 78702, the south side zip code is 78704, you're going to have a little bit of a similar vibe, but some of the biggest differences, you're going to have more green space in 78704. That is one of the reasons for the premium. You're also probably going to have a larger lot in many cases. You have, in many cases, walking distance or very close proximity to Zilker Park, to Barton Springs. That's obviously a huge benefit. Parking there is horrible. It's one of the most popular gathering spaces in the city for good reason. You have a lot more access to outside space. You also have the South Lamar district. You have some of the most sought after restaurants that are established in the city. So you have like Uchi, you have Soto, you have just like these really amazing places. Plus you can easily get downtown. You have the whole Mary district, the South First district with lots of vintage stores and quirky little businesses. It's gonna be more of a combination of condos with young professionals and single families with either long-term residents or more like professional established people in tech, CEOs, heads of companies, that sort of thing. The east side, you're going to have in the 78702 neighborhood, you're going to have more young professionals. You're going to have more, maybe they are in tech, but they have, not quite worked up to CEO. They're not quite running the company yet, right? They are buying their first home. They have the means to spend $1 million on their first home. They want to be in a walking district. They want to be somewhere where they can take a super cheap Uber to go out and get a great meal, right? So those are going to be some of the biggest differences. You're also going to have, it's going to be less saturated with condos. Now that is changing, that landscape is changing. And it's also kind of depends on how do you define the east side, right? Because if we talk about the east side, we do bleed down into the Montopolis area, Riverside. You're going to see Rainy Street. That's downtown. It's also east side. You're going to get a lot of young professionals in those Rainy Street condos there. Those condos are going to be a much better dollar per square foot than if you're on the west side of downtown. It does just kind of depend on route, right? Let's say you work downtown proper. So we're thinking Congress Avenue. you are probably better off living on the south side, 78704, because you can just shoot up First Street. You can shoot up Congress. Anytime you have to cut over, you're on your morning commute, you're probably going to cut down Cesar Chavez. You're cutting from east to west. That's going to, in traffic and rush hour, that can add on 15 minutes to a commute, even though technically, if you look at the mileage, it's similar, or maybe it's even less from the east side. It kind of just depends on where you need to go downtown. There's less streets that just straight cut into downtown. You're more highway reliant, or you're using Cesar Chavez as a cut through coming from the east side. So 9 times out of 10, I would say that living south is going to be a better commute. Of course, if you are north of the river, that's always going to be, so that kind of does change things a little bit, because we have these east side areas as well that are north of the river, and not having to cut over the river is also going to save you a lot of time on your commute. So I always encourage everyone, as you're shopping, to, really be mindful of that. Take out your Google Maps and route things. Take the home, route it out during rush hour, route it out during the times you'd commute, because you'd be surprised. I have clients come to me and they're considering living east or living downtown. A lot of what that comes down to is, do I want to be in a high rise, or do I want to feel more like a single family home vibe, or like a mid-sized building? For most people, pretty quickly rule out a downtown building. That's not to say there aren't people with children in those downtown buildings, but there's less likelihood that someone's going to want that, and it's going to make sense for their family needs, right? There's a few different demographics that really make sense in downtown buildings. In my experience, I do see a lot of empty nesters that now they're in a position where they've poured a lot into somebody else for a really long time. And now they can have this downtown vibrant lifestyle, this walkability, less to take care of, this peace of mind, and they have the funds to support that. You also have a lot of solo purchasers who, they don't want to, taking care of a house is a lot of work. They don't want to do that. And they want to be able to go to a 5 o'clock happy hour on foot. And they want to be able to entertain, and they want to be inspired by those city views when they get up in the morning, and they work from home, and they want to, there is something very inspiring about waking up in a space like that with floor to ceiling windows. And it is a huge lifestyle enhancement for the right person. Those are the types of things that I talk about with someone when they're considering, because they are so massively different. Now, if someone is a little bit stuck, we start getting a little more granular into, okay, you can drop $900,000 here, and you can drop $900,000 here. How do you feel about adding $1,000 HOA onto that? This is what that gets you, right? Do you see yourself walking to dinner every night? Do you see yourself utilizing that pool? Do you see yourself utilizing that gym with floor to ceiling windows looking out at the city? Do you think that, waking up in the morning and pulling the blinds and seeing the cityscape is going to feel really good and enhance your lifestyle, or you're not going to really care about it, right? Do you think you're going to use this co-working mixed space, this business center, or is it going to be just a thing that sounded cool and you never set foot in it, right? These are going to be the differences. Do you think you're going to want to be in this for a while, right? Condos are not going to appreciate the same rate as a single family home is. So your days on market, if you're selling a downtown high rise, your appreciation in that is going to be a lot longer. It's going to take longer for it to sell. And it's also not going to appreciate as quickly. The other thing is if you're a person who you think that you might want to rent it out, most of these condos have a cap. It's usually about 25 to 35% of the amount in the whole building, the percentage that they'll even allow to be a rental. So let's say you move into the Independent downtown. It's on West. You probably are going to be on a 2-year wait list, give or take, before you're able to even have your property as a rental. And it's not grandfathered in. So if you say, well, Adrienne, let's just buy one that's a rental already, it doesn't work that way. You're not grandfathered into that. So there's all of these nuances. I really need to learn about the person, their goals. I personally love downtown living. It's the reason why I work with a lot of people that do live in downtown high rises. But it's not for everyone, and it's really important that people understand the why behind why they'd want to and what that looks like and all the different components. So we're talking about downtown nightlife. We're talking about energy. Let's say West Austin, downtown East Austin. If we only talk about 6th Street, just for the ease of this conversation, we have West 6th, Dirty 6th, which they are severely wanting to rebrand that, and I believe in them, I really do. And we have East 6th. These carry completely different vibes. If you want to wear a bandage dress and heel, you're going to probably be most comfortable on West 6th. You're going to have, it's one of the areas in the city where we have, true nightclubs. Austin isn't really a nightclub city. It's not Miami. It's not Vegas. We don't have these like proper nightclubs. If that's your thing and you want bottle service and you want to, dress to the nines, you probably want to go to West. You might want to go to Mayfair. You might want to go to an event with a big DJ. That's going to be your scene. That said, you can also go there and you can be pretty casual because Austin is unique in the fact that you can kind of be whatever, wherever in any part of the city. You also have some more like quote unquote dives on the west side too. They just carry, even though it's like a dive, there's a bar called Bee's Knees. You would walk in, it feels more like a dive. You still are gonna have, feels like a little bit more of a combination of like a tech, professional, some like frat sorority, younger crowd. It's just gonna feel a little bit different. The middle or Dirty 6th is gonna be a lot of tourists. Day or night, you have a lot of people here, when you're Googling where to go in Austin, 6th Street is such a thing, and that's really where that's condensed to. You also still have a lot of college students that's where they go. The drinks are cheaper. It's so condensed to where it's very easy to bar hop. It just makes sense that this would be a very popular college kid spot. Then you have the east side of 6th Street. East side of 6th Street, it's going to be a lot harder, if not impossible, to find a club. So that's one of the biggest differences. It is highly walkable. I would say there's more bars concentrated there than there are on the west side. I should maybe sometime look at that and count. I can't say that with complete accuracy, but just off the top of my head, I do think that there's actually more establishments on East 6th than there are on West 6th. Most of these are going to be, you're going to see a lot of, bars with pool tables, bars with large outdoor beer garden spaces, food trucks, a lot more of a laid back vibe. You're going to see a lot more live music venues. Bars like Hotel Vegas, if you came into Austin and used that, I want to see live music tonight, 9 times out of 10, you could walk into Hotel Vegas and you could probably catch some sort of show. You also are going to have like the opportunity to get a cheaper beer, to get like a cheap beer and shot combo. You probably at some of these bars don't want to order a super intricate fancy cocktail because it probably won't be very good. That maybe you want to keep that to some of the bars on West 6th. More of like a cocktail bar. There's some great speakeasies that are on West 6th. There's Devil May Care, here nor there. Those are going to be, where I would recommend that you would go and you'd get a really intricate, nice cocktail. If you're on the east side, there's a speakeasy that is the Milonga Room or Molinga Room. I'm probably not saying it right. It's underneath and behind Buenos Aires Cafe. It is beautiful. It is it's very small. It's such a vibe. You can get a fantastic cocktail there. The owners are delightful. And you also have places like Oko where you can get a great cocktail. You can get, a nice meal and never leave East 6th. So there is a little something for everyone depending on where you are. If you had a blanket statement it, a little more polished, a little more quote unquote pretentious on the west side. The east side is going to be a little more loosey-goosey.